Hello everybody, welcome to Penrose Philosophy. For our first video, I'm going to be explaining the 0th dimension through the 4th dimension. Let's start out simple with the 3rd dimension, the one we're used to. We got height, width, and depth. In our dimension, we can move 3 different ways. Like this, and like this. Pretty simple. Now let's take 2 dimensions. Take one out. Might be a little confusing if you're new to it. You have width and height. Means you can move up to the sides, down. It's mostly simple. You can't move outward or inward. It's completely flat with no depth. One dimension, kind of confusing. You can only go side to side. There is no up or down, outward or inward. Very limiting. The last one is probably the worst one. 0 dimensions. The 0th dimension has no length, width, height, depth, nothing. It can't have movement, you can't have multiple things in it. There can't be any complexity in it. Now, beginning of the video, I mentioned the 4th dimension. This is slightly more confusing. So with a cube, it has length, or width, length, height, simple. Now with the 4th dimension, there are different ways to show what it looks like. You have a cube that is copied infinitely in a line. This is figured out because you take the 0 dimension, you do the same thing to make it the 1st dimension. You take the 1st dimension and you take it up to have a square, which is infinite lines, infinite 1st dimensions. You take the square and you give it depth. It's a cube, which is infinite 2nd dimensions. So, to make this, you got to do the same thing. You take this cube, and each line extends the same direction. Crappy drawing, but it gets the point across. You take the cube and you slide it through the fourth dimension. And this has two names, either a hypercube or a tesseract. Now you may have heard of the name Tesseract before, and not the Marvel Tesseract, but the geometric Tesseract. Tesseract. It is theoretically impossible for us to perceive what a tesseract looks like. We are only used to 3 dimensions. Before, others have explained showing a cube to a 2-dimensional being. Imagine this board is a two-dimensional world. We have a little character here. And we draw a cube for him. We explain that it has height, width, and depth. But in his world, it's completely flat. You can't perceive that it extrudes outward. All he sees is the outside of a hexagon, because you can't see past these lines, so he doesn't know that these inner lines here are even there. If the pattern is the same going from the 3rd dimension to the 4th dimension, it would be impossible for us to perceive what it looks like. You have a limited 3-dimensional space with somebody in it. Then you have a 4th dimensional being, however they would look, drawing a tesseract. All we see is something that looks like a clear hollow cube. But they see just a normal tesseract to them. Now, just because it seems like there would be a pattern doesn't mean it is. It is potentially possible to understand what the 4th dimension looks like. Another way to look at how a tesseract was created is this. A hollow square is made up of 4 lines, and this long line here can be folded into a square. A cube is made up of 6 sides, and a cross shape can be folded into a cube. And lastly, a tesseract can be unfolded into this shape, and each side is made up of a cube. This has been the 0 through 4th dimensions. Thanks for tuning in.